This is the second straight week a player has been open about their feelings about being 2-10, and specifically on defense. Okay, and that's not a crime. This is not a bad thing. Again, this is something I would imagine you at home want to know exactly what they feel instead of getting the same old tired BS at the podium. But this, in those quotes, is absolutely a violation of Belichick's longstanding media policy of treating reporters, as the old saying goes, like mushrooms. Keep them in the dark and feed them shit. And Adrian Phillips to me in New York, just about a week and a half ago, said the same thing. We got to hold them to 0. If 3 points, 10 points is enough, we got to hold them to 0. Davon Godchaux repeats the same sentiment with a smile, because that's his life. And we have gone through, the Patriots defense has gone through the stages of grief faster than I've seen any kind of team. Because I'll tell you, in that locker room, it wasn't a circus or a carnival or any kind of happy event you might find yourself at, but guys were smiling. They were joking. They know they had done their jobs, the mantra that defines this franchise, and it wasn't good enough. So what do you do with that? You don't sit with it and sink into it. You just go, well, on to the next. All right, recording here Monday, about 6 o'clock. Here's the plan. We are going to talk about the Patriots losing a 6-0 game to the Chargers on Sunday. I'm going to bring you the good, the bad, what would NFL film say? We need to talk, mailbag, all the usual segments. But I don't think you need me to explain much about a 6-0 loss. A loss that dropped the Patriots down to levels of offensive futility that in NFL history, there are 2 teams in the last 85 years to allow 10 points in 3 straight games and lose all of them. The other team is extinct. Those are the Chicago Cardinals, which I'm sure you've heard by now because it has been a long 24, 30, whatever it's going to be number of hours by the time that you hear this episode of the Pat's Interference Podcast brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering part of the CLNS Media Network. But I want to get to what you want to know because here at 2-10, honestly, it's dealer's choice. And I will tell you, this will be a first. We have a mailbag question from Aaron asking, can I pick a new team? Asking for a friend, of course. You got to give yourself some cover. And I think it's only temporary from Aaron. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, but that's where we are. And so I'm going to answer virtually every question that I got. We set a record over 20 on Twitter. I didn't post on Threads. So I'm posting more on Threads. If you're on Threads, please find me. And we're going to get to that. And I'm going to speed through the football because, again, you don't need a whole lot of my help to digest what happened. I do have a ton of notes and stats and diagrams, as you always find them at Film Review. Go to thebostonherald.com. Please read that. But the real place I want to start is the most interesting place from Sunday because it was not on the field. It was in the locker room when I was sitting next to Davon Godchaux for 10 minutes and he had his feet, I kid you not, it was one of these yellow ice buckets that you used to see the janitors in school drag around with a mop bucket. Instead, he had filled it with ice, put both of his feet in there, his giant legs, 330-something pound man, and it's just sitting there and say, hey, can I bug you? Because he and I chat fairly frequently in the locker room. Reporters are in there, standard week, play on a Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. A lot about LSU, college football, doesn't matter. So he and I chat for 10 minutes. And after games like this or other scenarios, I'll tell you, my approach as a reporter often is, look, I have to write about this. I'm probably going to talk about this on TV or the radio. Like, set me straight. What happened here? What did it feel like? I don't know what it's like to be Davon Godchaux. Tell me what it was like being Davon Godchaux in a game where you hold the Chargers to 29 yards rushing. You hold them to 6 points. You are facing one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You guys are controlling the game, and yet you can't control it well enough to win because you need to score points to win a football game. I'm not that animated, obviously, but just telling him, look, I'm not – the quote I used, kid you not, was I'm not trying to stir shit. And so he goes on, and he's honest with me in a way that if I was a fan, I would want to know exactly how these players feel because at home sitting on my couch, hopefully you had a beer or two, I'd be pissed too. 2-10, and somehow it feels worse than this. And so instead of bringing back a podcast classic of Andrew sits alone, talks to himself, and drinks alone, we're going to have Andrew sits by himself and reads his own work to himself, obviously for you. Because this is what Godchaux said. And these are some of the most revealing quotes that I saw all week, that I've seen all season. And it's not a credit to me. It's a credit to a guy secure enough in his standing on the team and in the league to speak some truth. And I'll be honest, they read pretty poorly. I mean, they are. They're not great. But he said it in a jovial tone that he was being honest of like, this is the reality. There's no need to hide from it. I don't need to build a wall of cliches and poke my head out and go, yeah, everything's fine. Like that GIF that we all probably tweeted or referenced. I know I did on Sunday watching that game. And here's what Devon Gotcha said about the offense and losing that game, because this is the most important, interesting part right now at 2-10. Quote, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I'm not going to sit up here and say, quote, I still believe, end quote. It's fucking frustrating. Anybody can tell you that. I thought Zappy made some good throws today. I thought there was a couple balls we could have caught as receivers, and those guys would tell you the same thing too. They can take accountability. We all got fucked up shit we all messed up on. But the margin of error in this league is so small. Like Taekwon had the guy beat by 3 steps, and we've got to make those catches. The margin of error is so small, man. I still think Taekwon's got a bright future. He's a really, really talented guy. But the margin for error in this league is so small, man. One opportunity that you let slip, like we really didn't get another opportunity to throw another deep ball. DP, Vontae Parker, had one, but he ended up being out of bounds. I'm sad we didn't get it done, man. I don't even remember if we won a home game against Buffalo. That's probably the only one. It's sad that we didn't give the fans what they want to win, because I think we're a playoff team. But our record doesn't show that. We're a 2-10 team, and it's just frustrating. But no one's going to feel sorry for us. So we pause. Again, this is a 10-minute conversation. I'm going to give you these quotes, because if you haven't read them yet, you deserve to know exactly how it was said, how I went up to him, and how it sounded coming from someone on this defense that, again, is experiencing something that no one alive in the NFL right now, Bill Belichick included, has ever seen. 85 years since those Chicago Cardinals. I told him, hey, next week, because he mentioned he's excited to go play in Pittsburgh. It's a great environment. I said, Trubisky's actually probably going to start for you or start against you. Kenny Pickett turn. He interrupts me. He goes, quote, it don't matter. We got to score and we got to win. We could get goddamn me at quarterback. We still got to win. But it's frustrating, man. I won't even sit up there and lie to you and tell you it's not. Obviously, you guys have been here longer than me watching Patriots games. This is very frustrating. I cut the quote off here because he goes on talking about the dynasty in 2 decades, and everyone loves to, punk the Patriots and yada, yada. It's in the story, full body, full context, everything that he told me on the record. And the dismount is this, because we talked more about other things, and I brought it back to Pittsburgh, looking ahead, what can you do? And this is what he told me. Quote, it's going to be very interesting. They have a lot of good players up front. We've got some good players up front. It's going to be interesting. We've just got to get after them. Like I said, we can't even afford to let them kick a field goal. We've got to hold them to 0. It's going to be interesting next week. I'm just excited to see whoever's at quarterback, to see him keep getting better and better and try to put up some points on the board next week and just give us a chance. That, ladies and gentlemen, again, is where we are at 2-10 with this Patriots team. The you lucky we ass edition of an NFL team, which is somehow so far in the rear view because there has been just so much ass that we've seen on the football field at Gillette Stadium since. You forget Jabril Peppers had the quote of the NFL season. Moving forward. On Godchow, this is the second straight week a player has been open about their feelings about being 2-10, and specifically on defense. Okay, and that's not a crime. This is not a bad thing. Again, this is something I would imagine you at home want to know exactly what they feel instead of getting the same old tired BS at the podium. But this, in those quotes, is absolutely a violation of Belichick's longstanding media policy of treating reporters, as the old saying goes, like mushrooms. Keep them in the dark and feed them shit. And Adrian Phillips to me in New York, just about a week and a half ago, said the same thing. We got to hold them to 0. If 3 points, 10 points is enough, we got to hold them to 0. Devon Gotchow repeats the same sentiment with a smile because that's his life. And we have gone through, the Patriots defense has gone through the stages of grief faster than I've seen any kind of team. Because I'll tell you, in that locker room, it wasn't a circus or a carnival or any kind of happy event you might find yourself at, but guys were smiling. They were joking. They know they had done their jobs, the mantra that defines this franchise, and it wasn't good enough. So what do you do with that? You don't sit with it and sink into it. You just go, well, on to the next. And you be honest about things. Even if you know this is going to get you dragged into Belichick's office probably here Monday today, a veteran reporter who I will not name texted me to say, nice work. Too bad he's going to be cut tomorrow. Because I'll be honest, Belichick has gotten a lot more angry and threatened players over a lot less. Anyway, none of this, as I said, is a crime. But it makes you wonder, as I wrote about in my column, naturally bashing a team that lost 6-0 and has scored 26 points in the last 3 weeks and lost all of those games, 23 actually. What comes next? Because we have a long 5 weeks to go at Pittsburgh on Thursday. Kansas City after that. On Sunday, if you hadn't heard, instead of Monday night, first team ever to have a home game flexed from Monday Night Football to 1 o'clock in a regional slot on Sunday. Then you have at Denver on Christmas Eve, at Buffalo New Year's Eve, and here come the Jets. Not with Aaron Rodgers, because of course the man was never going to come back. He just wanted his name in the headlines. And that's the Patriots' path forward. So who else is going to say something new? Because you've heard me say this many times before. I'm here for the intersection of the football and the interesting. I don't need guys to make splashy headlines like that quote did and did for the story at the Herald. I just want to know how you feel, because I know you at home want to know how they feel. And obviously after 6-0, after a historic loss, a historic stretch, that I think you deserve that. If you're investing in this team with your time and your energy and your money, though frankly it costs apparently $5 to get into the game if you looked at SeatGeek at the right time before kickoff. And guys are finally telling it to you. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a terrible way to get to this point. But hey, you might get even more down the stretch, or it could get much worse, depending on how Belichick reacts and responds, which, if the podium is any indication, this man is going down the same way he's always gone down, which is just being stubborn in himself.
Okay, so we've all seen the Patriots struggle to score this season. That has been no secret. But I have something new for you. And that is the fact that you at home, or walking the dog, or at the gym, or grocery shopping, you yourself can score this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. That's $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Again, $150 if you pick a team and that team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, you've heard me talk about them a lot. There is no better time than right now to get in on the action, because the app is super easy to use. And if you don't like picking straight up winners, you could go with point spreads or player props, over unders, and tons more. Just visit FanDuel.com/Boston and open up the NFL season on your terms with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
To the good. We're going to do the good, the bad. We need to talk NFL filmed. I promise you that segment is going to be very short this week. And then, as I promised, your mailbag questions. An aside, because this wouldn't be a pass interference episode if I told you we were going to do something and I went in a different direction. But very quickly, I want to say thank you to everyone who submitted a question this week, because I don't know what it is about my listenership, but you guys really deliver on that front. Like, I always think, and this is just how sports talk radio has been done forever, that when you take callers, it's great to engage with your audience. But I don't remember a call in my lifetime listening to sports radio where I was like, yeah, wow, John and Schwampskit really made a great point, right? Like you're outsourcing the content when you take calls, okay? I do this because I want to hear from you and I want to be able to give you some answers. I don't have high hopes, honestly, for a lot of these mailbag questions when people come up with new, but you guys deliver every single goddamn week. And I am very thankful for that, even if Thanksgiving was now, 2 weeks away. We can all be grateful every single day. I try to be. And today I'm telling you, thank you. Okay, the good. Also thankful for this, because amid the 6-0 muck, we had some bright points. Bullet point number 1, man coverage for the Patriots. I was worried. You heard me talk about this. J.C. Jackson bombed against the Giants, against Tommy DeVito. And yet, that man did not allow a single catch in man coverage to Keenan Allen, and neither did Jonathan Jones. Miles Bryant started the game with a pass breakup, working against Keenan Allen, who the Patriots were, frankly, I don't want to say unafraid of. They have a lot of respect in that locker room for Keenan Allen. This goes back, closing in on 6 years. I remember doing a piece in 2018, asking guys like Steph Gilmore, peak of his powers, soon to be defensive player of the year the next season, like, who's a guy who's underrated, who's really, really good? He said Keenan Allen. Deron Harmon said Keenan Allen. Devin McCourty said Keenan Allen. And I get that Keenan Allen's now 31. But the Patriots manned up on him in a way that was unexpected for me. And they delivered in a way that shocked me. Justin Herbert against man coverage, 5 of 14 for 70 yards, according to my charting. Nice work in the back end. In the middle, Mac Wilson. 1 pressure, 1 pass breakup, 28 snaps. Very well done. Christian Barmore, we're still beating the drum. The man is a monster in the middle. Now, I only had him down for 1 pressure. I'm like, oh, this isn't that great of a game. Mind you, the Chargers, for the first time this season, really wanted to run the ball, even though they stink at it. And so he had a lot of dirty work to do with a depleted defensive line missing Dietrich Wise. He did that dirty work and then some, and had, I want to say, 3 reps at least, where he beats a single block and gets within an inch of a run stuff or a pressure in a way that I would be saying, oh, he had 3 quarterback hits in an extra hurry. He didn't, but he came that close. And those wins will go down positively when he gets graded by the coaches probably today. So want to highlight him. Lastly, run defense. Again, the Chargers are historically futile when it comes to their success rate running the ball. Are you just getting 40% of the yards you need on first down, 60 on second down? And then are you converting if you get to third and fourth down? That's success rate. That's all it is. Very simple. Are you staying on schedule? They are as late as I've always been turning in papers in school and, frankly, articles on deadline. This Thursday night is going to be a little wild for me in Pittsburgh. Anyway, the Patriots still held them to 29 total yards on the ground. And I don't care if you're facing these Chargers or any other team in the league. That's a good day at the office for that defensive front. The bad, we'll go quick, pass protection. 5 sacks. I expected Bailey Zappi to be at fault on more of these than he was. Not because I hate Bailey Zappi or I think he sucks. It's because he likes to hold on to the ball. It's his binky as a guy in his early 20s, okay? And the thing is, most of those sacks weren't his fault. And the last one was the worst of them all because I tweeted this picture and muted immediately because just like pointing out that the stats say Bailey Zappi has been worse than Mac Jones by EPA and completion percentage over expected, basically measuring how accurate are you in the function of the offense when you include EPA. Like, he's been worse. That's fine. Whatever it is, they both stunk. But the offensive line let him down, and Ezekiel Elliott on 4th and 5 with 7 minutes left at the Chargers 30. Points at Derwin James. Bailey Zappi points at Derwin James. And Tyquan Thornton, standing across from Derwin James, points at him too and goes, he's going to blitz. And you know what happened? Derwin James did blitz. And he got the sack. And Zeke missed it. And this was bad. This is very bad. And you can't have that. But the thing is, Bailey Zappi got sacked on half of his snaps when he was pressured. And this is something we've talked about before. I think I have my notes. We're going to get to this later. And if not, we are going to get to it because we're going to talk about Malik Cunningham. It's just not good enough. On Wenu, Trent Brown, McDermott, just to be specific, all gave up sacks. Mentioned Ezekiel Elliott. Julius Peppers missed 3 tackles on defense. And you might be wondering why, Andrew, how the hell do you not get to the receivers when we're talking about the bad of last Sunday's 6-0 game? Well, here you are. We need to talk. Again, a segment we have done now 5 straight weeks in lieu of game balls because we don't hand out game balls after losses. I mean, what else is there to say? Were you honestly surprised by these receivers? The worst receiving core in the league that is sinking this season as fast, if not a little bit less so than the quarterbacks. Kayshon Boutte not getting a second foot down against Philadelphia. Devontae Parker dropping that bomb at Vegas. Juju Smith-Schuster setting like he's playing volleyball with the Commanders' defense for a game-sealing interception for a loss in Week 9. And now Tyquan Thornton, his turn to kneecap his teammates, drops the ball late third quarter. Perfect bomb, great play call, great execution, except for him at the end. It's great that he had the 39-yard run and an end around, also set up by good play calling. But this is horrendous. Thornton had 0 catches. Juju had 1 for the 4th time this season. Jalen Reagor had 1. Okay, that Juju catch also, by the way, if you go back and see it, don't. But I'll tell you, first half, 2nd and 11. Patriots had some sort of negative play on first down, obviously. All of the offensive linemen cut block, which you just don't see on 2nd and 3rd and long. And all of the receivers run either little flare screens to the outside, like little hitches basically, or curls over the middle. This is not a, we intend to convert right away. This was a, we just need a completion. And that's when he found Juju Smith-Schuster, who, of course, against deep, soft coverage, which you normally play on 2nd and 11, gave up. Anyway, that was Juju's 1 catch. We need to talk. You need to sit. You need to be in timeout. Oh, and Juju and Devontae Parker were limited today, according to the Patriots' projected injury report, which means they didn't practice, but you got to send something out when you play Thursday night. What would NFL Film say? Nothing. I think our fictitious cameramen, the guys holding the mics, the producers, the voiceover guys have all called out sick. They say this sucks. Callahan, this is a stupid idea. Documentary is over. We have all suffered enough. And it's a holiday, so I don't blame them. We will continue to do the segment. But I just, if you're NFL films documenting a team season, and it's this bad. And that game was the worst of them, at least offensively, I think. Actually, it was not the worst. They take that back. Bailey Zappi did not pull the pin out of the grenade and then hold both parts like we saw Mac Jones do for time and again in the 4 times he's been benched. But you skip over this one, okay? Home cooking didn't work on a Thursday Night Football. That'll be more of a spectacle. You hope that we have points. Okay, I said we talk about Malik, and then we'll get to the mailbag because, again, we don't do anything on time or quickly here. This is about a larger point, Malik Cunningham, because disclaimer, I am not someone who believes he's a starting NFL quarterback. I do not believe he's practiced enough to start multiple games. I don't even know if he's going to be legitimate backup. But I do believe firmly, based on the state of this quarterback's room, with Mac Jones, who's unplayable, and Bailey Zappi, who gets applause from Bill Belichick today on the radio because he just didn't screw up as badly as the other guy. Okay, I believe that Malik warrants a look. And for 2 reasons. One, you've probably heard me say this before. He amplifies the only strength of this offense. This is a top 5, top 10 rushing attack by EPA and success rate, staying on schedule, okay, over the last 6-7 weeks. He does that, or he would do that as someone who's experienced running option. He played a ton in college, and he has 4.5 speed. That's enough. Number 2 is he would play under pressure. You would think in a way that would be helpful. And we saw this from Bailey Zappi. An improvement. He didn't throw the ball to the other team when he got a little bit of heat up the middle of the pocket, something we've seen Mac Jones do time and time again. But he did, as I say, take a sack on 50% of the drives, which are just killers. If you are not an explosive offense, generally you do not recover from drives when you have a sack, and you punt. What did the Patriots do? Well, they either punted or took a turnover on downs. That's how all of those drives went when Bailey Zappi took a sack. And I'm not saying Malik Cunningham wouldn't take a sack. Okay, in the 2 snap sample we have of him playing quarterback back in Vegas in week 6, he took 1 sack on a busted play. I just think he'd be able to scramble. Guys in the team have told me he'd be able to do something. He's dangerous. He can get outside. It's a totally different ballgame defending a quarterback like him, even if, granted, he certainly can't pass like Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones, or we don't know that yet. But given the state of the offense, you have scored 0, 7, and 6 points over the last 3 weeks. This is the definition of insanity, continuing to roll with this offense in the way that they have. Malik would obviously be a big pivot. Now, again, I said this is going to be a larger point. Here it is. Someone in the Patriots organization years ago told me that Bill Belichick, as someone who is a supposed master of eliminating distractions, also has an unusual talent for making life more complicated and difficult for those around him. Just for the sake of it, often. Okay? And in a small way, I think that's what this Malik situation is really about. Because all these weeks later, the more I think about it, I agree with friend of the podcast, Boston Sports Journal's Mike Giardi, about Malik Cunningham getting that backup spot week 6 against the Raiders as Mac Jones' only healthy, available backup. Okay? Bailey Zappi was actually healthy. They just didn't want him. And the reason Mike says that he was the only backup that day is because Bailey Zappi the week before, when the Patriots get whooped by the Saints, okay, and Mac Jones gets benched for the second time for throwing a pick 6, and losing a fumble, says over a half dozen times to reporters, you can't turn the ball over. We lost because of turnovers. You can't turn the ball over. You can't turn the ball over. You can't turn the ball over. And Mike believes that Bill sat him that week to say, who the hell do you think you are, Bailey Zappi? Someone I just cut. Someone you think you can needle and be cute with the press. Okay, ask Wes Welker how that went before a playoff game, how I took that. Okay, so how about you sit this week as we play the Raiders defense, who aside from Max Crosby, let's be honest, is not pressuring anyone much more than the shy kid at a school dance standing in the corner, okay? We'll take Malik for the week. Go ahead. See how like being a healthy scratch there, Bailey Zappi. Because that game, when we talk about Malik Cunningham, is the only data point that doesn't make any sense. What else do we know about Malik Cunningham? Okay, undrafted rookie, was the highest paid undrafted rookie ever signed by the Patriots. He got cut. That's what happens to undrafted rookies. He comes back at the practice squad. That's where undrafted rookie receiver quarterbacks live. Then he gets this weird promotion in week 6 and then goes back to the practice squad basically until this week. And he gets elevated on Sunday. But for what? He didn't play. He expected to play. He confirmed to me personally there was a package of plays for him in the game plan. A game plan, by the way, that had a 67% run rate on first downs. Like, that was the plan. Give it to Ramondre Stevenson, give it to Ezekiel Elliott, and let Malik Cunningham run around. Oh, except we're not going to play him this week. And so if Bill really made this more complicated for the rest of the team at a point in time in which they were 1-4 with their season hanging by a thread going to Vegas, and not that it mattered in the end, Mac Jones didn't get hurt, played the whole game, except for when Malik played quarterback for 3 snaps, and it didn't go well. Totally offer that up. Like, what are you doing here? What was the plan? What is the plan now? There is nothing that should prevent you from saying, we should try this. Like, if it was only in the red zone, I think you're just limiting yourself then, given we saw Malik Cunningham's best play from the preseason was outside the red zone, nearly throwing a touchdown pass. It's one preseason play. It's against 4 stringers. All of that, I get it. I'm on board. But this is a case that makes no sense. And there are so many of them in Foxboro compared to other NFL teams, when the formula here should be simple. Find the best players and play them. Because we can't play these little games, these mind games with our players in the middle of the worst loss season. Because what message does that send? Mind you, we've been talking about sending bad messages all year until they sat J.C. Jackson and cut Jack Jones, which they finally come around. But you got a lot of unhappy players in that locker room. You heard quotes from the start of this. And some of those same players see Malik Cunningham as a positive changeup. And when he gets promoted and he practices and plays quarterback and says, I felt more like myself this week. I felt good. I was ready to go. And then you don't play him. What the hell is the point of any of this? Especially in a game when what you did instead led to this many points. A big fat goose egg. So let's be clear. This is if we take away the Vegas game, there's a whole lot less conversation about this. Right? Undrafted rookie, plays a little quarterback, plays a little receiver, he's on the practice squad. It's fine. But because Bill does that, it's not some media-driven narrative. Media didn't give him any snaps in practice. They didn't build a package for him. They didn't elevate him, sign him to the 53-man roster for that game in Vegas. Okay? Play him at both positions in the summer and preseason, make the entire locker room, not the entire locker room, but most of the locker room like and respect him. It wasn't on us. If anyone, it was on Bill. Okay. Mailbag. I'm fired up today. What's happening? This is going to continue, actually, because KJ has the first question. Sounds pointed at me. Not in a way that obviously all these questions are pointed at me. I got them on my Twitter feed. Anyway, KJ, quote, why do you, Mac supporters, ignore circumstances when Zappy plays, but circumstances define Mac's play no matter what? Well, my friend KJ, I don't know if you read my Sunday notes, which was an exploration of how are we going to remember Mac Jones. If you didn't, I led off talking about how human memory is impacted by just like the position of information. Okay, the things that you see first and last on a grocery list, or the digits in a phone number that someone's relaying to you. We typically remember things that happen first and last, and forget about those in the middle. And my point was, Mac Jones' first season was great. This season has been a dumpster fire. And yet the one that we should probably remember most, if we really want to know what Mac Jones was about, was the one in the middle. Where, yeah, a lot of people I talked to, a lot of people at home listening to this, pinned that whole dysfunctional, garbage 2022 season on coaching. But it was really the middle of what Mac Jones is. Guy who can flash against the Vikings on Thanksgiving and melts into a puddle against a sign of pressure like he's done basically since. And so I say this because there is a different social psychological phenomenon that explains this, and it's called the self-serving bias. Instead of order of information, it's a serial position. I forgot it right now because, of course, you forget the one time you bring up a piece of social psych. Read the piece. This one, though, self-serving bias, is basically the tendency to explain when good things happen for us, successes, it's because of our traits, what we do. I did that, not circumstances. And when we fail, it's typically circumstances. And it's the inverse, the opposite for other people. Okay, so like say you trip on the sidewalk. Oh, you're too tired. I mean, you got no sleep last night. You're on your phone. But you see someone else trip on the sidewalk. Look at that idiot. Okay? Oh, not that they were tired. And so when people identify with a player or a team, you take on that same self-serving bias. It's not the team's fault. It's not Mac's fault. It's the circumstances. And then they look at Zappy or whatever it might be. You get the point? Like, you identify with the player, then you take on that same kind of attitude or approach. Like when you say we lost, okay? We are not a bad team, okay? You're not on the team. We all know that. But that's how you speak. That's how we internalize it as fans. I do for the teams that I root for, which are not in the NFL. Go Huskies. Should have beaten Kansas last week. Anyway, that's what this is. As far as my support for Mac, I don't know what more I can do aside from being on television over 2 months ago and say, I'm out. He'll never be a good starting quarterback for the Patriots. And write many times since then, including just about a month ago now, the era should be over. Like, we can all see the circumstances and say, oh, maybe I was a little bit tired. Or I should just pay attention and not be a doof. Like, we can see it's a bad offense, the worst receiving core in the league, not a great coaching staff. And the quarterbacks, isolated from that environment or walking down the street, are what they are. It's all bad. Anyway, that's enough psychology talk for today. Mace, quote, how can any team want Bill Belichick as a coach after seeing how awful they play under him? I think he's the GOAT, but we almost have a half decade of Bill being one of the worst coaches in the NFL at this point. Assembling a staff and player development matters. It does matter. Here's the thing about any team wanting Bill Belichick. These teams are run by owners that you can take it from me, or you can take it from people like Dominique Foxworth, who once sat across the table from these owners 2 CBA negotiations ago and very quickly learned, staring across from Jerry Jones and Jerry Richardson and Robert Kraft, they're not that much smarter than me. They might be rich and successful, but a lot of them inherited their businesses or found fortunate circumstances. We're kind of doing the self-serving bias thing right now, but you can listen from Dominique or just take it from me. Or the best argument I could make is watch the horrendous press conference David Tepper gave just last week in Carolina after Frank Reich got fired. That tells you everything you need to know about how some of these guys function. And so when David Tepper fires Frank Reich after 11 games, his third coach he's fired in the middle of a season, this is the same guy who, if Bill Belichick walks into a room, the Panthers call and Bill picks up and says, yeah, I'll come in. And they're, they'll say like, okay, we gotta make Bill prove this. Or we're not just going to let him walk in and, take the job and write the contract and we'll sign it. Or it could be Chicago. This could be Washington. Again, teams that are starving for relevance, and something that even as bad as it's been for Belichick, if we bring him in, we'll at least consider it. The first thing Belichick does is drops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Super Bowl rings on the table. And he sits there silently because he can endure awkward silences more than any human being I've heard of or you've probably seen. Okay? And you look at those rings and understand that he's won more of those than anyone else in the world. And then you talk about the last couple of years. And he goes, well, look, this season was a season from hell. You work in this business long enough, you're going to have them. You're going to lose your best players like I did. Matt Judon, Christian Gonzalez, boom, both gone week 4. Offensive tackles, both got hurt. Guys are signing free agency. We drafted some. We had them ready to play. They're playing pretty well right now. Again, successful rushing offense. But, quarterback can't get it together mentally. And I gave him plenty of chances. Had to bench him 4 times. And yeah, I get that I drafted all these guys. But you know what I didn't draft was Bill O'Brien. That was a hire, as Belichick will say, forced upon me by ownership. Lo and behold, it's much worse than the offense that I ran last year with Matt Patricia. And yeah, that season didn't go great, but we were in so many close games. We were 1 game away in 2022 from making the playoffs. And if you look at the year before, I just needed a 1-year reset to get back to the playoffs. And I had the number 1 seed in December. You get a rookie quarterback and some bad luck. Like, he explains everything away in a way that Tom Curran, friend of the podcast, told you last time he was on here. Bill is a guy who could shoot a 90 on the course and say, yeah, that could have been a 70. Big golf guy. I don't know if you would say that, but that's how you talk yourself into that job. You start with the rings, the career, and you explain away, as we just did for people who like Mac versus Zappy. Circumstances are responsible for all of my failures, and for the successes, it's all me, the greatest coach of all time, who you want because you made the call. That's why I'm sitting here. And as I'm sitting here, you get the impression that I still know what I'm talking about. Because either you're someone who doesn't know how to make hires, as David Tepper and others have certainly proven, Or you don't care. You say, we'll get you for 3 years. Bill gets a record. You get the residual effects of all that, all the positivity, the initial buy-in from fans. You get butts in the seats. And if it doesn't work out, you go, well, look, how could I go wrong hiring the greatest coach of all time? Because I will tell you this, national people are only just now coming around to the fact that it's that bad in Foxboro. Holy shit. Kid you not, Rich Eisen, NFL Network, before that Germany game. It's on Tom Curran's podcast. Saying the same thing, be like, come on, this can't be serious. It's actually vice versa. Tom was on his show. Anyway, too much Tom Curran for this. But the point is, these owners can be talked into that. They might be talking themselves into it, making it very easy on Belichick. And if you have multiple bidders, again, Chicago, Carolina, Washington certainly. Doesn't sound like any change is going to happen in Buffalo. Maybe Tampa Bay. I don't know. The Chargers. Other issues there. How much ownership wants to spend on Belichick. He's not going to come cheap. But they'd be willing to do that. Someone will be, if not more. All right, we're going to go a little quicker. Ashley, hi, Andrew. What is one underrated position on this team that you think will have to address this offseason? The obvious three are quarterback, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. Again, talking like you internalize it. You guys are the Patriots just as much as Tyquan Thornton is, maybe unfortunately. I would say tight end. Because you got to stay on offense, right? Like, say what you will about the defense and some depth. Depth is going to take some hits, but Gesicki's in a contract year. Hunter Henry's in a contract year. Pharaoh Brown, same deal. And Hunter Henry might come back, but what about his play has inspired you the last year and a half? And again, understanding the circumstances, we can isolate some good games from Hunter Henry, but it's not like he wows you in any one particular part of his game. He's a good, decent, all-around tight end. Mike Gesicki's just not been a good fit, and he's a highly specialized player. And you had overlap immediately. Remember kind of questioning that at the time, him and Juju. So I would go with tight end, someone that can be a two-way player, the way the Patriots want to play offense. Most teams do, frankly. The guy who's a threat as a run blocker and a receiving tight end. You just don't have that in a way that defenses feel that kind of player. So yeah, after you check off quarterback, receiver, offensive tackle, throw in a tight end. Fuad, hey Andrew, just want to say thanks for your interactions with us fans, of course. Quick question, do the Krafts have any football advisors outside of the Belichick tree whom they can turn to when it comes to finding the next head coach and general manager? And when do you think they will mention changes that will happen? So I think I answered this actually for a couple of weeks ago. And my point was to say, look, we understand Belichick came from the Parcells tree. In between, they had Pete Carroll. So this is an ownership group that, granted, that was almost now 30 years ago when Pete Carroll came aboard, but is not afraid to go outside. And most importantly, has gained a ton of experience being in the league, interacting with other owners, coaches that have come, that have gone, and learned about how the league works and what works best. I'm not saying they're going to nail the hire. This is basically just as hard as drafting a first-round quarterback, okay? Not a great success rate at either of those positions. But while I can't give you the short list of the people that they would call, they have a massive network. Not only because they've been around, but people pick up when the Krafts call. Like, they are among the most respected ownership groups in all of sports. So if they want to get a hold of someone, and we know Jonathan Kraft has been very involved at the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference every single year, like that goes not just for traditional football people or ownership groups. Like, they'll look at different numbers, or numbers people in analytics to kind of build and make this decision. Again, I still, based on what I've heard, based on what I believe, Jerod Mayo is still a favorite to be the next Patriots head coach. I don't know what those odds are. We could be talking about minus 150 or plus 1,000. I'm going to need Mike Binansky to come on back and explain exactly what I just said. But point being, they've got plenty of people that they can talk to and consult. And the upside of this season, again, going straight into the sewer, is that they have more time to make those calls and gather that information and obviously make a decision that will be coming up. Caleb, quote, hey, Andrew, I was wondering what if there is any intel on how the Krafts feel right now. I find it interesting that we haven't seen much or heard from the Krafts lately. It shouldn't surprise you. Are things going to get ugly after the season? Thanks. So I do not have any intel here for you. And I think the Krafts are wise to stay quiet on this. You will hear a lot more speculation. I mean, it's already started about how the season is going to end. And not even in, is Belichick going to leave? No. That's an assumption now. That is baked into our expectations in our lives for the next couple of months, and certainly in January and February, whenever what's going to happen will happen. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm going to go by the same assumption. To answer the second question, yeah, it could get ugly in a way that Belichick is under contract. He might not want to get traded, which is the primary reason to hold on to that contract, is to get some sort of compensation for him for whatever team that might want to sign him. And if Belichick doesn't want to be traded, because obviously that would lessen the pool of assets for that team and give him less to work with when he arrives, you're at a little bit of a stalemate. And so there's a staring contest of, would Bill really want to be here for another year? And again, we just talked about this. Daryl Morey gets this in the NBA, is like the king of being comfortable when things are uncomfortable. Okay. Belichick has had that crown. He's not giving up that crown. That is his in American sports. Watch any press conference. It's him. So in a stare down with player agents or ownership, like, he's going to be fine to dig his heels in. Where that leads next, I don't know. But you certainly would think that Kraft is applying a little bit of pressure to make it inhospitable for him to stay, because it is in the best interest, as I see it at least, of this team and ownership group to hit the full reset button. And that doesn't involve Bill Belichick. So, yeah, I think it could get ugly. I don't know if it will. I don't know what Belichick wants. He might just say, yeah, get me out of here. I'll go. I don't care about the third round pick. I'll, recoup it somehow with another trade with another dumb team. Okay. Again, this is a guy, I guess I'm going to mention him again. Tom Curran came on. And if you want to know about ownership intel, was way ahead on the Bill O'Brien hire last year. And I think we'll be ahead of the curve this season. I'll leave it at that. John, quote, "If Patriots willing to eat the contracts of Devontae Parker and Juju and cut ties with them in the offseason? If so, does that handcuff them cap-wise to bring in free agent receivers?" No, it does not. They are, I think last time I checked, scheduled to have the third most cap space in the year. They were at number one earlier this season. And then the Bears made some sort of trade and leaped them. But the bottom line is, if anyone wants to make a cap argument to them, show them how much money the Patriots have spent this year and are scheduled to spend hard cash. Like, this is from a team building perspective. Like, players care about guaranteed salary versus the total number, right? You as a fan should care about the cash spending, the actual money going out the door, versus this hollow number, this figure on our books that can be changed or manipulated and moved around. The cap does matter. People saying cap is crap is just that they just love to rhyme on the radio. It's not true. But there's so much money available to be spent and so much cap room available to them. They should be able to spend and do whatever they want, which is really the bigger question, is what do they want to actually spend or not? As far as Parker and Juju, another question I gave a couple weeks, maybe a month or two ago about this. It's easiest to trade them at the end of next summer, or basically after June 1st. In those deals, you would probably have to attach a late round pick to get off of their salaries, at which point I don't know how the new head coach, assuming, again, there's going to be a new head coach, or GM would feel. Juju is more problematic. It's over $7 million, might be $9 million if you just outright cut him. I think it's when it gets down to $7 million if they did trade him. But who the hell wants that contract? I mean, when he signed, I'm looking at the numbers going, okay, he's here through 2024 because of the guarantees. Now, they could just take the dead money if they're willing to go for a full reset, but no one likes to waste money, even if you are swimming in it like the Crafts are, because that's a lost investment. And obviously the player's already lost, but you're either going to have to ship out more assets with him just to get him off your books, or cut them and take the dead money as it is. And look, there are a lot of teams that have been willing to do that in recent years for a lot more than just $7 or $9 million. So together it would be over 10 trading, or around 10 trading or cutting. And if you really want to know, tweet at me, email me, whatever, and I will find those numbers for you. Jordan, quote, "It sounds like the plan was to have Mayo as a head coach and keep Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator. How can they possibly still go forward with that plan? Do you see the Crafts pivoting to a complete reset? I'm sure Bill O'Brien is a smart guy, but you cannot have the worst offense I've ever seen." That's a lot. It's the worst offense Jordan's ever seen. And keep your job. I don't know if they'll still go with that plan. I've said, again, I think Mayo is the favorite, but 2-15 is a whole lot different than 5-12, and I have no idea how in the hell they would get to 5-12 at this point, going at Pittsburgh, home Kansas City, at Denver, at Buffalo, home Jets. So we're about to get there, and they might have to change their plans. And I've said other places that you hear things from people who are outside the building, so you don't give it as much weight. I'm not writing this, I'm not out reporting it, but I share with the folks who take care to listen on a podcast where I've just been talking to myself for 43 minutes that they hear things are a little different about Gerard this year, which the line of demarcation there is him getting a new contract, new responsibilities back in January. Is it because of that? Because of the season? His relationship with Bill? I don't know. But there are just a few more questions, I think. And part of it is the record. Part of those things that I've heard about him in the building. What does it mean? I don't know. But the only thing that matters is what the Krafts think. Because in the same way that those owners I just told you about could get talked into Belichick, dropping the rings and making that whole spiel. If the Krafts can get talked into, Mayo's the right guy for the job, here's what I would do, and they've been talking all year, that's it. They make the hire. Nobody else. Aaron, I teased your question at the beginning. Since the Patriots stink, am I legally allowed to look for another team? I didn't watch Sunday. Good for you. And would like, kidding, to watch some good competitive games during December, asking for a friend. It's a bummer, Aaron, that you asked this, as college football, the regular season at least, ended. Because that would have been my number one suggestion, is to pick a college football team, a product that is, worse from a performance standpoint. But I think, in the same way college basketball is versus the NBA, objectively more fun. Like you have more players, more teams, more playing styles, more drama, more backstories, more everything, the crowd, the student section, everything. But of course, that's out the window. We only have bowl games and the college football playoff left. So yes, Aaron, if you want to pick a new team, it could be somewhere you've been. It could be a friend's team, just piggyback on for the last few games. You don't have to give up on the Patriots to pick another team. You just make a little more time on Sundays. That's it. Hey, and more time for you at home watching football, eating snacks and having a beverage of your choice. Cam, and we're closing in. Oh God, we still have 1, 2, 3, 5. 3, 5. Can you tell it's about time to end? 5 questions left. Cam, do you see them winning another game this season? Jets? Question mark. Does Caleb Williams make the most sense for them? A lot of questions in there. First of all, I do. It is the Jets, who I wrote this for a Thanksgiving piece. 7 reasons why you can still be thankful as a Patriots fan in 2023. And one of those reasons is you're not the Jets. Because their offense, believe it or not, is the worst. This is according to The Athletic. Zach Rosenblatt, very good reporter for the Jets, covering the Jets, tweeted today they have the worst offense by EPA per play for the last 30 years. Since 1990. Over 30 years. The worst offense in the NFL. And that's because Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, and now apparently teammates want Zach Wilson to take the job, and Zach Wilson isn't sure if he wants it. Imagine how bad that job has to be paid that much to go play a game, and you don't want to be that guy. Just be thankful you're not the Jets. Anyway, I think the Patriots, you beat them. We are all going to do the Spider-Man meme thing. Everyone all week is going to be saying lose, 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 and the Patriots don't. But if they did, and that is Belichick's last game as a Patriots coach, whew. Actually, I'll just go back and say my earlier answer should have been yes. Things can get ugly if it starts with the loss to the Jets. Anyway, Emma asking, who do we start on Sunday? More we. That's what I'm talking about. It's going to be Bailey Zappi. I again, argue for Malik Cunningham. I think he should get some snaps. I don't think he should be your franchise quarterback or start the rest of the season. You got to involve him. Short week, though. Pittsburgh. It's going to be Bailey Zappi. Mac Jones, Tank Commander. He's back. Are you on hashtag Team Tank? Or are you okay with them trying to win games the rest of the season? This could be a longer conversation, but it's been a long episode. I believe you cannot tank in the NFL in the way that you can with the NBA. I am on the record advocating 3 years ago the Patriots should tank. And you play the younger players, you sit the injured guys, the iffy guys, you tell them this is how it's going to go. The locker room is too big. There are too many guys with personal gain in their futures on the line with tape that will either get them a job next year or a tryout or something that are going to go hard. And they should. There are only 17 games. This is it. But yes, it's in the best interest of the Patriots to lose the rest of their games. Absolutely. So I am not okay with telling guys like Devon Gotcha or Adrian Phillips or Trent Brown, especially guys in free agent years, to sit out because we could get this rookie quarterback who may or may not work out in a year, and you're not going to be here, but we need to get him so that we can play forward. And all the fans, rightfully so, are like, no, that's what we want. That's what we need. And I would agree from a team standpoint. But the people who need to carry out this tanking, the players, it's not as easy on a 12-person basketball team in the NBA to say, sit this one out. Hey, Dame Lillard, go to Barbados. Like, just take April off. Like, that, not a big deal. You cannot do that. Players will not do that. And so I think it's impossible to tank in the way that everyone conceives of this, that we've been exposed to in other sports. But of course, it's in the best interest of the Patriots to lose. They're just going to have to do it while trying to win. Two more. George. I think George is new. I think he's new because he introduces himself in the mailbag question. Hi, I'm George, and I'm a Patriots draft hype sucker. I bought into the hype. What's the deal with Mapu? I thought he was going to be the next Patrick Chung. Now he can't stay on the field. Terrible coverage in the crossing tight end yesterday. My man George is watching this film. Does he have an NFL future? For the record, I can't say definitively whether Marte Mapu blew that coverage that resulted in a 26-yard game for Gerald Everett in the first half. But him and Kyle Duggar were in man-to-man on the two tight ends in a twin set, two receivers on the opposite side. And it looked like Kyle Duggar was the force player against the run. So he was just going to take whatever route broke out. He took that player. So did Marte Mapu. And that's why Gerald Everett went across the field into wide open space and looked like he blew it. Anyway, as far as Mapu, Belichick talked about this morning. I think his answer was mostly honest about, look, he's playing behind Julius Peppers, Kyle Duggar, two of the better box safeties in the entire league. That's his position. I would counter and say, why isn't he bulking up and playing more linebacker like Mack Wilson? He's never going to play on the edge. He's not that big. But if he's a box safety, he's playing in the box where the linebackers do, because that's where he's best. And I don't think he's gotten enough reps. We know he was in a non-contract jersey for most of the summer. And so at this point, when you're just feeding off of scraps and a few of them are rotten, like, you're going to starve. You're not going to be your best. And that's what I think we've seen from Marte Mapu, who has 7 defensive snaps the last 3 weeks, only 3 on Sunday, and only played 1 more after this catch that you mentioned, and I just hopefully kind of explained. So I think we'll see next year. Kyle Duggar might be gone. Who knows? I'm not rooting for that either way. But this is a player, I said it this summer. He's playing really well, and we need to slow the hype train down because I don't see any playing time for him. And when you blow it with those 3 snaps, you're not going to get many more. But I do genuinely believe, and I talked to Brian Belichick about this last week when we had Zoom calls with the assistants, they believe he's a really good player. They think it's going to happen for him. It doesn't mean they're right, but there's belief still in there, even if the rest of us have to wait to see it. Last question. God bless me. Oh my God, I lied. Lawrence sneaking at the bottom. Anyway, Matt, first, are there specific individuals in the front office who are responsible for evaluating talent on the offensive side of the ball, or is it ultimately Matt Groh? Matt Groh doesn't have the final say, but he's making the final pitch to Bill Belichick, who does have the final say. The way the front office is built, you have the lowest level are scouting assistants, grunt guys, come in, cut tape, make some scouting reports, really assemble stuff for people above you, including scouts who typically live in different places across the country. They cover regions. This goes for most NFL teams. You have a West Coast scout. You have a Southeast scout. You have a Midwest scout. You have a Northeast scout. And so all of these guys are responsible for all the players in their regions. Now, you might have some that specialize in certain positions, but you need to know everybody because you're covering a territory, not a position. And so that goes up the food chain to, this is kind of the college side that I'm talking about. Assistant college scouting director, which is Cam Williams right now. Matt Groh used to have that job. On the pro side, it's Steve Cargile. And so it's a collective failure. But if you're going to pin blame on one person, it's a guy who signs the free agents and drafts the rookies and makes the trades. And that's not Matt Groh. It's Bill Belichick. Okay, Lawrence, you snuck in on me here at the end. Lawrence basically wants to know if I'm ever going to blame Bill O'Brien with the lack of talent, not being able to pick a staff. How much blame do you put on him? I put increasingly more every single week. And it's not in a way that I think Bill O'Brien has many outs or many options here. Like, how would you coach this offense? Yeah, we just talked about this is the worst receiving core in the league. You have the worst quarterbacks room when healthy in the league. This is already a tiny playbook. What are you going to do? I've advocated for running the ball like you did at Buffalo a couple years ago. You can't do that every week. Anyway, the quibbles I have with O'Brien are going to be when you average 5 yards per carry from 2 tight end personnel, only running that 24% of the time against the Chargers, or not using more play action, or not incorporating Malik Cunningham. And maybe that was entirely Bill Belichick's call. Maybe it was a combination. I don't know. So when you're the worst offense in the league and you're the offensive coordinator for that offense, I don't think it's a fair side-by-side comparison to last year's, given it's a harder schedule and worse talent. But yeah, of course you're to blame. And he's taking the blame. So yeah, yell and scream all you want at Bill O'Brien. I'm not going to stand in your way. Okay, if you want to listen to more, I am going to stand in your way because I need to get off. But we are going to leave this here. Patriots play Thursday against Pittsburgh. We will not have a preview episode. I don't even know what kind of episode we're going to have next. But if you do have a second and you've hung around this long, please find us, again, on Apple, Spotify. Ratings and reviews really, 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 really help. And if anything, just think of this as a holiday gift to me for maybe answering your mailbag questions, because we need to keep growing. We're going to hit the offseason soon. We're going to have a ton more content like we had with Danny Kelly last week, scouting quarterbacks, talking free agents to sign, maybe trades, the new head coach, the new GM, all the stuff I'm hearing as we get closer to that stuff. It's going to stink. It's going to be a slog. We have 5 more games to go. We should appreciate the football while it's here. But in the process, if you can give back a little, I promise to keep giving you these episodes, which somehow was 54 minutes long after one of the worst, most boring games we've ever watched. Because that's what we do here in Pats Interference, brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. We are going to bring it every single week, so long as there's Patriots football to talk about. When that is, again, later this week, I don't know, but you'll have to find out. So thank you again. Find us, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening, YouTube, drop us a comment. We would love nothing more. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.